Hi, and welcome to this instructional video on Unity Lite. Unity Lite is a call control system which brings all of the normal controls and functionality you have on a desktop handset onto an application on your PC screen, making it much easier to access all of the functions you might want to use. It also gives you access to user settings for the services you may be subscribing to. The buddy list allows me to monitor the phone status of up to 8 of my closest work colleagues. What I'm also able to do is very easily change which of those colleagues I monitor. If I go to manage my lists, I can perhaps remove Paul and Tracy because I don't want to monitor their status, and then by searching on the directory I can replace them with my colleague Peter, and now Peter is displayed. You'll also see that I'm able to see their on hook status, so green meaning they're available to take a call and red meaning they're on a call. In this particular view, I'm able to see that Peter is on the phone to a conference bridge and has been for some time. But I may want to have a different view, a more simple view, if I've minimized the package. So I can go to an option of just a simple list, or more probably to a neater tile version. And I can still hover over somebody who's on the phone and get the information about who they're on the phone to and how long that's taken. For dialing numbers, whether that's an internal colleague or any outside number, the app gives me a number of different options. If I want to call my colleague Peter, I can right-click the application. It gives me the option of calling the extension. In this case, it also gives me the option of calling his mobile because I must have his mobile registered within the system. But if I just simply then click that button, it will initiate a call. And if Peter answers the call, you'll see that the call is being made, the call has been answered. And if I want to release the call or end the call, I can just use the button there. So very simple to dial a number that's on my buddies list. If then I want to dial a number manually, I can bring up a dial pad, and using the keys on my computer, I can dial any number I like. I'll just dial an extension number as an example. And if I click OK, it's going to then make that call ring. You can see again, I'm calling from here. It's accepted. And again, I've got control to release that number. Finally, I might search more widely on the list in my directory and look for a colleague, in this case Christina, and if I then wanted to call her again, I have the option of calling her directly from here with a single click. Transferring a call using the application couldn't be simpler. If I receive an inbound call and it turns out that that needs to be transferred to another colleague, I can very simply take the call, drag it on to one of my colleagues if I have them on the buddy list, and by releasing the cursor at that point, you can see I've now got my options to transfer the call either to Peter's extension or indeed to his mobile. And if I press transfer, you can see that that is now ringing on Peter, the indication given there. And when Peter accepts the call, we can now see that Peter is on that call. So that's transfer option number 1. If we look at transfer option number 2, maybe a more fundamental one, if I take an inbound call, and again, I talk to the person and it needs to be transferred, I can press the transfer button. And if this is being transferred to somebody who's not on my buddy list, or indeed to an external number, somebody's mobile or an alternative office, I can simply dial the number in here, press OK, and you'll see the number disappears from my control window and has gone off to the destination extension. Putting a call on hold using the application is also simple. So if I'm using a headset, either from a soft phone or a desktop phone, I can very simply answer the call. And while I've got the call and I'm talking to the caller, just simply using the hold button, press it once in order to put them on hold, and this will deliver on hold music to them. And then simply to retrieve the call, I press the retrieve button. To create an ad hoc conference call, the application makes it simply a matter of pressing the odd button. If I have an inbound call and I'm talking to somebody and I receive a second inbound call, I have the option of identifying that this is a conference call that I want to have. So if I highlight the second inbound call and I choose to answer it, you'll see that the first one has gone on hold, the second one is now a live call. But simply by pressing the conference button, I'm bringing the two calls together and we're able to conduct a conference call. If I finish with one of the parties and wish to continue with the other, I can then simply highlight the one that I want to release them, and I'm back to a single unit call. Conferencing on outbound calls is also made very simple by the application. If I start off by making my first call and establishing that call, if I then want to make another call and bring that party in, I can simply dial the number, establish a second call. You'll see that the first call is automatically put on hold, the second call's been received, and now when I press the conference button, both of my outbound calls have been joined together into one conference call. Equally, as before, I can release one of the parties and return to a two-party call. The application also allows me to very simply access my core system settings or my user settings. Now, for most people, that probably means being able to access and control the three main call forward options that I've got. Let's start with call forward always. Perhaps I'll have this set up so that if I receive a call and I want to divert it to my voicemail box, I can simply set it up with *55 and then my extension number. And by saving that, all of my calls will now automatically go through to my voicemail box. When I've finished my meeting or I come back off sick, all I have to do is take the enable key off, and that leaves that option of my voicemail box in that available phone number. So if I just click enable now, that would reset the service. Equally, I can put any number into that box. So if I wanted to call forward always to my mobile or to a colleague's extension, I simply put that number in, and I can vary that as often as I like, when I like. Similarly, if I just save that through, if I go into my call forward busy, I can enable that, and then if I'm on the phone, it will go either to a voicemail box or to a colleague, perhaps, if that's what I want it to do. And for call forward no answer, the same applies. I can put in any number, but I can select how long it will ring on my phone before it chooses the diversion route. But again, the application is making the control of these services and any other services that I have against my user easily managed from this one window. Within the application, we get to record our call logs, very similar to a mobile phone experience. You can see that in my call logs tab, I have visual representation of missed calls, received calls, and dial calls. And if I wanted to, I could call the number back, or I could add it to my personal directory, which again is linked to this particular application. So a very simple way of seeing any of the calls that I've made, received, or missed, and calling them back and utilizing those numbers quickly. If as a user you've been allocated the call recording service, then the system allows you to control that from here as well. If I have an inbound call that comes in, you'll see that this button here has gone from green to amber. That indicates that the call is now being recorded. If I click on that once, that will suspend the call recording, and you can see it says call recording paused. And if I press it again, that designates that it's now recording again. This, of course, relies on the fact that you have the pause and resume option set. And if I just end that call momentarily, if I look at the options that you could have set on there, it allows me to move between pause and resume, on demand, or always as a call recording service, or of course to turn it off if I wish to.